Right, okay, so anyway, so we're going to do an introduction to compositing tonight with Photoshop, but I think it's a subject that quite a few members have asked for some guidance on. So it's quite a popular subject, and there are lots of photos that get produced in these different comps that are composites. Therefore, tonight, anyway, we've got a video from Scott Kelby, who quite a few of you will probably know, and he'll give us an overview on some of the tips and tricks and how you can use Photoshop to produce these photos. These tips, they should also work with Affinity or other editing software, but obviously how you do that will be slightly different, but it's getting an understanding really of the basics, and the use of these composites can vary greatly in detail. I've got a few examples from the Southampton International Exhibition, previous ones that they've held, and these have been people. So there's all sorts of photos that are basically composites, which seem to be.
You can tell.
Hey?
I don't know how you can tell with that one.
No. That one looks fairly lifelike as well. So there's just a few examples of some of the things that are done and give you a flavour of what can be done. Really, it's a lot of it is down to your interpretation or your ideas. Oh, there's some birds in that one, Roy.
Yeah. Real treat that one was.
Yeah. See, that one's just a little bit. It's not. That's fairly simple, but just a bit different. So anyway, that's just a few ideas of what people use it for. It's just really down to your own imagination, I guess. Just one thing to mention, a couple of things really to bear in mind for some of the newer members is that any photos you enter in a competition for any PDIs, including ours, anything that you use in the photo that you insert, or they must have been taken by you. You can't go downloading stock photos or
Oh.
So if you want to use it in your photo to enter it into a comp, you will need to go out and take a photo of it. Secondly, we're recording the video. Sorry?
I say, or just lie.
Well, yeah. Well, you can do that, I suppose. It doesn't look very good on the club if we get caught, though, Rory. That's the only problem.
No.
And secondly, I am recording this, and we'll get it up on the YouTube site probably tomorrow. So you, by all means, make some notes. And I think the video, I've watched this video, and it is quite interesting. It's a bit thought-provoking. Comes up with some good ideas. But you'll be able to go back and watch it again if you want, so that you can work through it at your own pace, which probably won't be a bad idea. I just remembered I didn't do something when I shared. Right, let's Right, on with the video then. Yeah.
So what are the things that you need to know? Like, what are the things that you're going to really need to know? What are the techniques or whatever that
Can you hear that okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, fine, fine, okay.
you're going to need to master to do this? Well, let's just go through them real quick, and then I'll put it together for you. The first is you're going to need to learn how to make grade selections. That is the one thing that Adobe has improved on a level that is staggering. Like, I just can't even imagine. It has just gotten so easy that it's just mind-boggling. So that's number one. You're going to learn how to make grade selections. We're going to talk about that today, and we've got all kinds of little tricks and stuff to help you with that. Because now you can get to a mask that looks like this in like 15 seconds. It used to be 15 minutes. Now it's 15 seconds. You're keeping hair detail and all that kind of stuff. Next, it is going to be really important for you to match the direction of light. So when you're putting somebody that you shot in the studio or you shot outdoors in natural light and you're going to put them on a different background, you're going to have to match the direction of light. So what happens a lot, and I see this all the time, and it's like a dead giveaway that it's a composite, is you have someone who the light is casting in the wrong direction on them. Now, someone looking at this photo might not immediately recognize what the problem is. They just know it's a composite. They can't go, oh, the reason why your composite doesn't work is blank, right? They just go, it looks like you cut it out and stuck her there, and it doesn't look real, you know. So matching the direction of light is critical. It's easy to do. We're going to talk about how to do it and stuff, but it is an important part. Next, and this is another big one, you got to match the tone of the background. Either you're going to have to change the background to match your subject, or more likely you're going to change your subject to match and fit the background. That happens a lot. Take a look at this shot. There's no way she was shot at the beach. There's no way. The light it looks too soft, the colors don't match. It's just, the whole thing looks obviously, oh, you stuck her. It's like a Zoom meeting. It's just, it doesn't look right. So that's one of those things we're going to have to do is to match the tone. Next, we're going to have to learn how to hide edge fringe. This is another thing that I see a lot, and it's a dead giveaway. When you put somebody on a different background, and all of a sudden you see this little fringe around their whole body, and this is very common, and it's easy to fix, but you got to first realize, is there fringe? You got to keep an eye out for this stuff because it'll burn you. All right, next, you got to add shadows. I can't tell you how many times I see like group shots of doctors or something, and no one ever thought to add a shadow. So I put this very poor thing together because these are just 3 images I happen to have on my drive. And if you look, there's no shadows. There are no shadows separating anybody. And all you have to do is add a little bit of shadow, and it makes all the difference. It adds the depth and dimension and realism, but it also adds edge fringe. So that's another thing we're gonna have to deal with, is when you do add shadows, making sure you don't have edge fringe. All right, next. This is a trick that I do at the very end, is I use color to unify multiple images into one photo. It's just a little trick. It's super easy to do. I'm going to show you what I think is the easiest, fastest way to do it. And it is a finishing touch that pulls the whole thing together. And I always feel that without it, it's a little incomplete. So that little bit of color that you add to everything pulls it all together. And this is a composite, and it's that color, that kind of bluish green color tone over the whole thing that pulled it together. But the secret to success is really how you shoot your subject. And I'm going to tell you straight up right here from the beginning exactly what the secret is. And if you do this, you will be able to composite anybody into anywhere. You need to shoot your subject on a neutral background. If you can shoot them on a light gray background, you'll be able to pull anybody out of anything. Don't do green screen. Do not do green screen. That is for video. If you shoot regular subjects on green screen, you will pay the green screen penalty, which is there will be a green in their skin that does not show up on video that is mortifying in stills, and you will not be able to get rid of it. It is a nightmare. White is okay. It's a little sticky. You're much better off to shoot somebody on a light gray background. Now here's the thing. Go buy yourself a roll of white seamless paper, throw it up on a wall in your house. If you don't like that seamless paper, it turns light gray. Or you could just buy light gray paper. But light gray paper, when you don't light it, turns to dark gray paper. A lighter gray, just like a light gray, and you're done. Now, what if you don't have a light gray? You want to find a wall that contrasts with either what the person is wearing or mostly their hair. Because honestly, selecting like me in this coat, no problem. It's my hair, the way it blows in the wind, and it's so free. Anyway, it's the hair. It's always the hair. It's never a problem selecting somebody wearing a shirt and pants and a jacket. That's nothing. Those are hard edge selections. It's hair. That's the holy grail of selections. If you get their hair on a contrasting color, a beige wall, a tan wall, whatever, a lighter color if they have darker hair, and a darker wall if they have lighter hair, Photoshop will do all the rest. But I want you to get the illusions of you taking a picture of your friend in the forest with all these trees and all this stuff everywhere, and you pluck them out and put them in downtown. That dog don't hunt. It really doesn't. If you want to be a success at compositing, shoot people on a simple, clean background and a contrasting color. And if you have gray, it's a done deal. So that's what I do. When I want to composite, I know I want to composite somebody, I pull out the gray seamless or the white seamless and don't light it. That's it. Outdoors, find a wall with contrasting colors and you're done. That's it. But I cannot overstate how important this is. All right? All right. You ready to get to work? Let's do it. Let's go ahead and start. I'm going to take you through the whole process, and when we're done with this hour, you're going to be like, oh, I can so do that, because we're going to do it so many times it will be ingrained in your brain. You'll wake up in the middle of the night and you'll want to start compositing. It's a sickness. All right. Let's jump over to Photoshop. Okay. Let's take a look at this first image. All right. Now, selecting her jacket, nothing. Selecting the hair is the hard part. Now, we're going to make this so easy. Now, if you have the latest version of Photoshop, let's say you have the Creative Cloud, you're paying the $10 a month, or you're paying the $50 a month for the whole Creative Cloud, you've got the latest version. The latest version, the biggest thing I think that they did in the whole last upgrade was a ridiculous improvement in the quality of a feature called Select Subject. Select Subject actually uses a technology called Adobe Sensei, which is a combination of AI and machine learning, so it's an artificial intelligence thing. Oh my gosh, it's so brilliant. They have this giant database where they figured out what objects are. Oh, that's a person, that's a banana, that's a bowling ball, that's a pizza, I get it. It looks at the screen and says, oh, you want this? And it selects it for you like that. Now, it's been doing that for about 2 years, but it was within this last update. So you can still use it, and what I'm going to show you will work in older versions of Photoshop. But the part where it masks the hair for you, it didn't do that. It always cut the hair out like you did it with scissors, and then you had to go to another place to fix it. Now it does about 85, 90% of it, sometimes 100% of it. The whole process is now nothing. All right, want to get her off the background and put her on a completely, here's what you do. Go over here and just choose any selection tool. I use the quick selection. I just click it. All you have to do is click it to make this button at the top called Select Subject Visible. That's all you got to do. Make Select Subject Visible. It's right here at the top. It says Select Subject. You click on it, give it 2 seconds, and done. That's it. It selected the subject. And the thing is, it didn't do a cruddy job. It does a really good job. So what I would do at this point then is, if you think it's if it doesn't have hair, all right, and this is the rule, if it doesn't have hair, you're done. If it has hair or fur, so if it's a dog or a cat or, someone wearing a coat with fur, fake fur, hopefully fake fur, then it's a no-brainer. All right, you're done. If, in this case, she has, hair and stuff, then you're going to click another button right next to it called Select and Mask. I'm going to tell you, your work's almost done anyway, but you're going to go here just to fine-tune it. So click on that. Now, what I would recommend to make this easy for you, go over here to View, and I choose this overlay. It is a red tint. So everything that is selected properly is in full color. Everything that's not selected is in red. So what you can do with this red overlay, which I love, is make sure you've got the second tool selected. There's a little toolbar at the top left. Make sure you have the second tool selected, and any place it didn't fully, it doesn't look like it's in full color, like it's a little gray or something, all you have to do is paint over the edges with this big, see the little plus sign in the middle? Don't paint over the plus sign. Just get the edges. And it goes, oh, you want that in there too? and it picks up any little stray areas you might have missed. So maybe on the top of her head, anything. See, right in there, there were some little gray spots inside her hair, and by me just running over it like that, it fixed it. Now, you have one more button to click and we're done. Over here, decontaminate colors. All right, go ahead and turn this checkbox off and watch how it fills in the missing gaps. Like watch, I'm gonna turn on, here we go, 1, 2, and 3. Did you see that? I'm gonna turn it off and on. It really works nicely. All right, now, what I generally choose is to output this to its own separate layer. If you think you want to tweak the mask and stuff, that would be a more advanced thing. Then you would choose new layer with layer mask. But this is introduction, and so let's keep it easy. So let's just think we're not going to tweak this. We're going to be okay because I got some tricks that are going to keep you from having to do a lot of tweaking. So what we've done so far, we click the button that says select subject, we click select and mask, and anything that it missed, we just painted over the edge of it. That's it. Now let's hit OK. We hit OK, and look, there it is on its own transparent background. This checkerboard tells you that it's transparent. So the original layer is hidden, your original is protected, you didn't lose it, the background's all still there, it's just hidden from view. And then you have this duplicate layer with this on there. Now, here comes the super trick. It's what I've been doing for years, and it really, really helps build up the edges of the hair and stuff. It's so simple, I'm embarrassed to tell you. All you're gonna do, ready? Duplicate the layer. That's it. When you duplicate the layer, the pixels behind it build up and it fills out the edges even more. So remember how decontaminate helped? Watch this. I'm just going to duplicate it. 1, and here I'm just going to go to the new layer icon and watch. Did you see that? Look. See how it fills in? Right? I want to zoom in a little so you can see better. Watch. It just adds in. Like there was a gap there. It was kind of almost see-through in that part of her hair. Now, when you add the second layer, it fills it right in. So if there are little gaps and little missing areas, just duplicating that layer will usually do it. But now you have 2 layers. So here's what I recommend. Once you've got that second layer and it built nicely, and every once in a while, not normally, but every once in a while, you will have to do a 3rd layer. But now that you've got these 2 layers, you don't need to deal with 2 layers. Let's just deal with 1. Let's take these 2 layers and combine them into 1 single layer, just because it's easier to work with, right? How do we do that? All you do is press this keyboard shortcut. Command E, as in Edward. Command E on Macintosh. If you're on Windows, it's Control E. Takes that layer, merges it with the one below it. That's exactly what the thing is. Merge down. It takes the top layer that we just made and merges it permanently with the layer below it. So now the 2 layers become 1. Here we go. Command E. Done. That's it. Now we just have 1 layer. So now I want to put her on a different background. You can actually copy and paste layers between documents. It's really super easy. It's one of those things that they added in the last couple of years, and I was so happy. I've been wanting to paste between documents, just layers the whole time without making a selection. I just want to copy the layer. Now you can. Simple. Command C, Command V, standard copy and paste. So let's just copy. We're on that layer. Copy. Go to a background. Paste. Done. All right, now she's on the background. You can see the hair did a really good job. Let's just get the move tool. You can see the hair masked in there beautifully. However, it looks like she's stuck in there. And that's because her tone doesn't match the rest of the photo. She looks very warm, her skin's warm, her hair's warm, everything's warm, and she's standing in an apartment that is very cold. So look at the background. It's like it's probably 27 degrees. No, the colors are very blue and gray, right? And her hair is brown. So it's not really a great match. So this is one of the first things we're gonna have to deal with, and we talked about this in the presentation I did at the very beginning, which is trying to match the tone of the image. Now there's a lot of different ways to do this. I'm gonna show you one way that's kind of a quick and easy, I don't wanna have to mess with it kind of way, and that is literally to just desaturate the image a little bit. Desaturate just your subject. So how would you do that? Well, I would go to the Camera Raw filter. So the Camera Raw filter is basically, they took Lightroom's Develop module and they put it on a filter. So it's the same sliders in the same order that do the same thing as Lightroom's Develop module. They are identical. So I'm just gonna bring it up And I'm going to go down here to the basic panel, and you'll notice this looks just like Lightroom's Develop module. That's because it is. It's the same stuff. So go down here to Vibrance, and I would just lower the vibrance a bit so it takes some of the color out of her and looks a little more modern, and it desaturates the whole subject. So now when you click OK and you go back to your image, her color tones match a whole lot better. So that's an easy little trick that I've done for a long time, is if the colors seem too vibrant, let's desaturate them. Okay, that's one way. Let's hit undo, Command Z on Mac or Control Z on Window, and you can see how much more vibrant the original colors are. If you really want to nail the color a little bit better, then let's do this. What I do is I look at the image and go, what is the color that jumps out to me? Well, it's either this light blue up here above these two mannequins, which is creepy, or this blue in this coat over here. So what you're going to do is this. You're going to steal that color. Let's go and get the eyedropper tool. We're going to either steal this lighter blue or this darker blue. Let's steal this darker blue over here. That becomes our new foreground color. You can see it over here at the bottom of the tool palette. We stole that color right there. Now here's what we're going to do. I need to put the selection back over her. Remember how she came in? I need to actually reload the selection like we're starting, from where I first pasted her in. The keyboard shortcut to do that is simply you hold the Command key on a Mac, the Control key on a Windows, so let's do that, and then you just click right on the thumbnail, right on her. If you look at the cursor, it's a hand with a selection around it. So that's how you reload the selection. So Command and click, and look, it puts the selection back around her. The marching ants are back around her. It's a perfect selection. It gets every pixel is like right on the money. Here's what we're going to do. Create a new empty layer. So right next to the trash can, there's a little square with a plus sign. Click on that, and now we have a new blank layer. We're going to fill this blank layer with that blue color that we stole. How do you do that? Well, there's a selection in place already, right? Here, look, if I hit her, you can see there's a selection already in place. We're going to press the keyboard shortcut. The keyboard shortcut will fill any selected area with the foreground color. The keyboard shortcut is Option Delete. If you're on a Mac, on a Windows PC, it's Alt Backspace. Fills it with that color. Now that it's filled, we don't need that selection anymore, so let's deselect it. To deselect it, Command D for deselect. Easy to remember, Command D. There we go. All right, and now look how great the colors match. No? Okay, you're gonna have to change the layer blend mode. So the layer blend mode determines how the layer that you're on affects the layers below it. Well, we filled this layer with blue. How does it affect the layers below it? It covers them. So how do I get this color to blend in with the photo so it's not covering it? The way you get it to blend in is to change the mode from normal, and this is so easy to remember, to color. When you change it to color, it keeps the color, but you can see through it. So now it's like basically a see-through color. So let's just choose, right at the bottom of the list, almost very bottom, color. All right, it still doesn't look right because she looks monochrome and blue. The last part of this is to just simply go in here to the opacity, and we're just going to lower the amount of opacity. We're going to keep lowering it and keep lowering it until she looks like she's there. Maybe somewhere in there. That's what we're looking for. We're looking for a hint of blue throughout her, so it looks like that photograph was taken in the same basic, lighting conditions. So watch the difference it makes. Here's without it, and there's with it. So it adds that bit of blue. In fact, now that I look at it, it might even be a hair too blue. That's at 39%. Yeah, let's go down to 30%. So it still has that bluish tint to it, and it looks more like she's there. Now, what we haven't done is we haven't done anything to unify her in the picture. What we've done is we've matched the tone. We don't really, because there's so many lights on in the store, we don't have to worry about the light direction with her too much. It's not like there's a big window and you're seeing the window and you got to deal with that. And if you have a window in your shot, that's something you have to worry about. But in this case, it's a department store, there's light coming from all different directions, whatever. But there's some things that we can do to unify it. One thing that I like to do to unify it, and unifying means basically we're going to apply something to the whole image all at once to kind of pull it together. So now that our colors are kind of in the right range, let's go ahead and you can either flatten the image to move on to the next step. Or if you're like, oh, what if I want to change my mind? What if I want to go back and stuff? You could create what's called a merged layer, which is a keyboard shortcut that creates a new layer that looks like you flattened it. And it adds a new layer at the very top of your stack. I'll show you that keyboard shortcut, but to be honest with you, I wouldn't really do that in real life. I'm going to show it to you, but I don't worry about all this non-destructive stuff. If I had to redo this again, seriously, how long would it take me? 45 seconds? 60 seconds? But if you're in that camp, and if you're a graphic designer, probably not a bad idea, because clients change their mind like mad. But when you're doing it yourself, you don't change your mind like mad. I hope not. You're like, yeah, that looks good, and you move on. Here's the shortcut in case you want the merged layer. It is, on Mac, Shift, Option, Command, watch the layers palette, E. Makes a new layer that looks like it's flattened. If you're on Windows, Shift, Alt, Control, and E. E as in Edward. Now, if you're like me and you go, yeah, it looks okay, I'm ready to move on, I'll just flatten the image. The less layers I have, the happier I am and the faster Photoshop runs. Now that that's said, let's move on. I want to add something that's going to unify this whole thing. So what do? I put a color tint over it. Remember the picture of the young lady playing the bass, and then there was this background and the colors were all unified? I put a tint over it. You could call it like cinematic toning or some kind of a color tone over the image to give it this kind of feel. Super popular. All the cool kids are doing it. No, everybody's doing it. It's a big thing. So where do I get this color toning? Do I have to go into curves? Do I have to do all that? No, it's built in. Here's what we're going to do. Go back to the camera raw filter. Camera raw filter, bring it up. But at the top over here in the basic panel, you will see 4 squares and 3 squares and a magnifying glass icon. It's right to the right of the word profile, and then color is this thing. It is the browser for profiles. Now this is where you go to choose your raw profile, but this is obviously not a raw photo. But what we are going to choose here are there artistic profiles that are just effects. So we're going to click on this browser. We're going to scroll down to either artistic or modern. Let's try modern. And you've got all these one-click looks. All you have to do is click on them and it gives you a look. Actually, we'll start with the artistic and we'll look at those first. All right. So the artistic ones, what's nice about them is you get a live on-screen preview. Move your cursor over any of the thumbnails and they'll show you what's going to look like. So for example, take a look at this one. See it as a pink tone? Look how that one thing unified the whole picture. By putting a tone over the whole thing at one time, it really does make a difference. So if that was my final tone right there, that's a little too green for me, but if that was my final tone, it does really help unify the whole image. So let's go down, and same thing with this one. Look how the colors all unified by adding this on the end. Here's the modern ones. They have a real nice desaturated one. Look at this desaturated one there. So it's still in color, but it's way desaturated and it's very heavy on the contrast. Some of these are not just color, but they're light on different contrasts and things. They're like little recipes. It's kind of like buying a plug-in or something. Ooh, that looks nice right there. So anyway, find one that you like. I don't know which one you like. Let's go with this one just for fun. And then click OK. Well, you could click OK, but there's one more step we can do to help unify this. It's a very subtle little move that I add at the end. It's very subtle. You wouldn't even know it's there unless you see it. Like if I put up the picture, you wouldn't go, oh, he did blank, but it's there. And it does make a difference, and it helps unify. We're going to add darkening all the way around the edges to a very specific number. The number is -11. And you think, it's not going to do that much until you see it turned off. Where do you find this magical thing? Let's go and go back. And we're going to scroll down to the effects panel. And by the way, if you're using Lightroom, you would do the same thing there. But we're in Photoshop, and we're using the same things that are in Lightroom, but we're doing it in Photoshop. It's cool that we have access to it without having to go back to Lightroom. All right, go to Effects. Go to Vignetting. Type in or drag it over to -11. That's the number. That's my magic number. All right, I added a darkening to the edges. The thing is, you can't really tell that I did it. So if I were to click here, there it is. You see how subtle it is? It's just very little, but it also helps unify the picture because you're applying it to everything, to her and to the whole picture. It's another one of those unifying things. And so at the end of the day, you've matched the tones. You don't have any shadow issues here because there's nothing close enough to her to add a shadow. Now, if she was standing near those mannequins and all, then she would be casting a shadow onto those mannequins, but she's so far away from everything, you're not really casting any shadows, so you're good there. So that is the kind of the basic technique of what we're going to do. Let's try it a couple more times and a couple more scenarios because I have some more things I want to show you, but that's kind of the basic scenario. Let's close that, and let's close that. Now this shot is not shot on a neutral background, but there's enough contrast. So notice that's a key thing. She's wearing very vibrant clothes and the background's completely washed out. If you see a lot of contrast like this and the background's out of focus like this, you could probably make it work. So let's try it. Let's go and click one. So the first step is always to click a selection tool to tell Photoshop I want to make a selection. But we're not actually going to use the tool. The tools are just there if it doesn't do a knockout job. If it kind of messes up, then we've got these tools to help us. But in this case, you choose a tool and then you click select subject. And it did a pretty good job. It didn't do job of the year. But then let's go over and fine tune it. Go to select and mask. And yeah, you can see, look at her hand and look right beside it. It actually selected a little bit too much. Let's kind of go over there and get rid of that. And let's see, anything else? Under her arm here, you notice there's like a white piece of white. I don't know what else to call it. Let's just get the edge of our brush, go in there. Yep, got it. Edge right in there. Yep, got it. All right, and I think we're good. Let's click, decontaminate colors is already turned on, so we're good, and we click OK. Now, there's a little bit of junk over here, and there's part of her hand, you notice the checkerboard's coming through her hand? All right, so there is a really, really slick little trick that you can do. You already know that you can duplicate the layer, and that might fix it right there. Just that. Do you want to try it? Let's just see. Command J. All right. Yeah, it helped, but it didn't get all of her hand, and it actually copied some junk over here that we don't want, right? This little junk, that's easy enough to get rid of. Let's merge those two together. But let's get rid of the junk, grab the eraser tool, and just go, yeah, I don't want this there. And we won't go into why, just as sometimes it's okay to use the eraser tool. This is one of those times. Okay. All right, now, I still got a hole in her hand. Do you see that hole? That's not good. Oh, there's more problems. Part of her hat is gone too. The hat was kind of, it's gone. It got the hair, it forgot the hat. Ready? Here's the secret. This is gonna make your life so much easier. When this happens, you're going to go and get a brush. And you know what this brush is? Ready? It's undo on a brush. Undo on a brush. You can grab it any time and go and undo. So yeah, it made a hole in her hand. Go get this brush right here. It's the brush right under the clone stamp. The name of the brush is the history brush. By default, it is set up to be undo on a brush. And you go, oops, it lost part of her hand there. Whoops, it's back. What about that part of the hat? Oh, yeah, there it is. There's the hat. So any part of her that falls out, you can go fix it with undo on a brush. That's it. Now, here's what I want you to do. You learned this in the context of compositing. But now you can take this into all of your Photoshop work. I now know that there's an undo brush. If I make a big mistake, I just get it and I can paint back to where it started. So if I do something horrendous or something really bad happens or I cut out something, I can just go paint it back in and it will paint it back to how it looked when you first opened the image. There's one caveat. When does it not work? The one time it doesn't work is if you change the size of it. If you resize the photo or you resize her. Like if I selected her and made her smaller, you can't grab the undo and go. So that's the problem. If you resize it, it kills it sucks the life out of the undo on a brush. Now, at this point, I wouldn't be resizing or anything, so it's not an issue. But I just wanted to give you that caveat. So if one day you go to grab it and say, oh, I remember Scott said this is undo on a brush, and you go and it's got the circle like, no, because you either, well, there's two things. You could have changed the color mode. You could have gone to CMYK or something, but the brush remembers RGB, but that's unlikely. Resizing is more likely, but anyway, just so you know, put it in the back of your mind. Okay, so we've got that done, and then I can see a little extra junk over here, and normally I do a layer mask and all that stuff, but there's just a little junk there. Okay, so we were able to fix that. Anything else really missing? One place that I do use this brush a lot, do you see that it took a little chunk out of her shirt there? Yeah, there's like a chunk, like something bit, like a small turtle came up and bit right there. Let's go get the history brush and we'll just paint right there. Oh, it's back. Amazing. Anytime that it cuts something too hard, you can see if there's maybe a little bit left there. Anything over here? Maybe you have a little bit of, oh yeah. If it looks like it's too abrupt, it may be that it cut it out. Okay, so there we go. Now you could take her, oh, you know what? This is unfortunate, but she was leaning on a railing. So if I put her on another document, that railing will be left back. Here's what we can do. Instead, and this is why I prefer to, I'm not always able to do this, but rather than taking her and copying her onto another background, I prefer to take the other background and copy it into here, like this. Let's go get this window, select all, and do a simple copy, and go to her, and hit paste. Now it's going to paste on top of her, right? Let's put it behind her, right? Why do I want to paste the background into her document? Because you know what? In her document, I have undo on a brush. She was leaning against a railing. Let's go bring back the railing. So the railing was over here someplace, right? Right? Ooh, how's that for picking the right spot? So the railing is somewhere in here. There it is. So I'm going to put the whole railing in here. There we go. It's weird that she has a railing in her house. It's weird. She's got some issues. Let's go get the eraser tool now, and I can just get rid of. By the way, you can draw straight lines by holding the Shift key. So I click the eraser once, hold the Shift key, draw a straight line, and it goes away. Unfortunately, I was painting on the wrong layer this whole time. You should paint on the layer with your subject. There we go. Another lesson learned unintentionally, albeit unintentionally. Let's bring that thing back. That was kind of dumb. See, this is why it's probably better that I'm not in front of a live audience, because everyone would be laughing and pointing and probably throwing tomatoes. Now, go get the eraser tool, and now you can click once, hold the Shift key, click, and it will erase that extra junk. Now, this stuff is not an issue because it's all hard edges, right? All hard edges is not an issue, so get rid of that. We'll make the brush very, very small and go in here. I'm just going to do this quickly because we don't want to spend all day long working on this. But anyway, okay, so there. Now it's in there, and now you do all the other steps. You'd go in there, and what I really wanted to show you here was undo on a brush. Let's move on because we got other stuff to do. We have other things to tackle. Okay. So you might remember seeing this shot in the opening presentation. So we had a studio here, and there was an image in the canvas, and then there was a couch in the front. So first, let's talk about how to get that image in the canvas. There is a very easy, simple technique that works really effectively. Step one, get the rectangular marquee tool over here, since this is a rectangle, and we're going to select all the way to the edges, like that. There we go. Now, what image do we want to appear inside that canvas? Go over here to the beach. We're going to select all. That's telling Photoshop I want the whole picture. Let's copy it. Now, if I go to the other, hit the tab and go to the other image, if I hit paste, what's going to happen? Not good. Undo. I want to paste it inside my selection. That's why I made a selection first. In that case, you don't choose paste. You choose paste special. So go under the edit menu and look, there it is, paste special. And you're going to choose paste into. And it will take that image that's in your memory and it will paste it inside your selected area. So now you can just go get the move tool and reposition it where you want it. And that's kind of how I had it in the, maybe I clipped a little bit. There we go. And you can put it inside your image however you want. Now, if you're going to do this, there's something wrong. There's light coming in from the window casting across it. You probably should add that light. So let's add a new layer. Let's go get the polygonal lasso tool, which is the fancy name for the polygonal lasso tool. And what this allows you to do, it's the connect the dots tool. So if you don't want to create something that's square or circular, but has straight lines, you go to this one. So here's what I can do. I'm going to click in the bottom of the frame. I'm going to click up to where the light's coming through the window. It goes across here, and it goes down here, and back to where I started. And when I click where I started, it creates a selection in, kind of that shape. Now, I want to fill it with white and then lower the opacity just to make it look like the light is really casting on the picture. But you'll notice, look at the shadows. The shadows aren't hard. Like the light coming in and stuff is soft. So I need to soften those edges. To do that, there's a softening thing. It's called feathering. It softens the edges. Let's go feather, modify, the select menu. Select menu, under modify, let's go choose feather, and I'm going to put in 15 pixels is fine. It just, the higher the number, the softer the edge. So we're going to choose 15, and then I'm going to fill that with white. How do I do that? I'm going to press the letter D to set my foreground color to black. Then if you press X, it makes your foreground color white. So let me press X. Stop it. Why is it bringing that up? X. There we go. So now if I press, remember the keyboard shortcut we used to fill the woman with blue, right? Option delete on a Mac. And notice look at the edges. They're very soft. Soft edges. Yes. All right. Now, there's also this bit coming through here. I think I made those edges a little too soft, but see how there's these little lines coming through from the window? We should probably get rid of those. Let's add a layer mask. So click the third icon here at the bottom of the layers panel. Get yourself a nice soft brush that is the size of those kind of things. And let's just paint a straight line maybe from there to down here, and another soft from here to there. Maybe another one from here to there. Just kind of, and then when we lower the opacity of this layer, kind of looks like the light. We gotta get way down, so it kind of matches the, it's not a perfect match, but anyway, so you get the idea. All right, now, what about her? Well, get our selection tool. You know what to do. Click select subject. Let's see what kind of job it does. Hey. Well, it did a good job on most of her, and it didn't do great on all of the couch. Why didn't it do that great? Well, because the colors are all very similar. The background's everything's similar. Easy fix. We already have the quick select tool. The quick select tool lets you add. As you paint, you just paint over stuff, and it adds it in. Let's just fix that real quick. Get that edge over there. Well, look at that. We're almost done. A little bit of the edge there, and I think we're done. Done, 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 done. That's it. So now we have her selected. I think we got a toe. We're missing the toe. The captain of the toes. All right. Now, I would go to select and mask, and let's make sure that we get the edges of her hair. So get maybe a smaller brush and just touch the edges. Just go right along the edge. Don't let that little plus sign in there. Yeah, look at it picking up all that extra detail. I'm hoping you can see that on your smaller screen, but it is picking up that extra detail that we needed. Make sure decontaminate colors is on. Click OK, and there she is. Now let's copy and paste her layer. Copy, just Command C. Go over here to the studio, Command V, and she's a little too big, I think. Go to Free Transform and scale her down, something more like that. Now, we still have that problem. What's the problem? The window is on the left, but the light is hitting her from the right. Look, the shadows are on the side of her face where the window is. So it's subconscious. This is not a very conscious thing. People wouldn't look and go, oh, your shadows are, I mean, designers would. But regular people, they wouldn't know why it looks real. It just wouldn't look real. So how do you fix it? This is super easy. Right click inside your free transform box and choose, look at that, flip horizontal. Boom. Now the light's on the right side. That's it. The light's there. However, and I don't see any issues with anything else really, except all the color tones aren't perfectly together, right? So let's do those finishing moves that unite the images together. Let's go to camera raw filter. Let's go to that little square. Let's scroll down to maybe modern and see if we can find one of these that looks good. That brown tone was kind of nice. Brought everything together real well. You got all these different ones. Find one you like. See if any of these, that one's kind of interesting. I mean, it's all personal taste at this point. Let's go with this nice, everything's kind of brown look. It added a brown to the wall so they're not all gray and stuff. And click OK. And while you're there, we probably should have added a little bit of that secret vignette sauce at the end. The -11 secret edge vignette. Very subtle. Look how subtle it is. Watch. Very subtle. And there you have it. The light's coming in the right direction. You fixed that issue that we talked about earlier. All right, let's roll on. How about this? I have another trick to show you about colors. Let's open up this image right here. Okay? You're probably wondering, is it really going to mask that? Is it going to mask her? I don't know. We'll find out. let's go ahead and do that. Get a selection tool, click select subject. Dang, that ain't bad. That ain't bad. Let's click on select a mask and see what a job it did. Yeah, I don't know what else you really need to do. I guess you could maybe could use a little work up there. Yeah, it's kind of falling out there. Now, if you see that it's falling out like while you're doing it, you can go to the third tool down, which is the don't mask this stuff up here. It is the eraser. Like if it's the uneraser, right? So if you know that something's missing, if you see something falling out, you can just say, no, that's not supposed to fall out. Just paint over it with the third tool down. The second tool is the one we use all the time. The second tool is the one that works the magic. If it works too much magic, that's when you'd get the third tool. When do you use the first tool? I don't know. I don't. So really it starts with the second tool? Yes. Let's move on. All right, so we're doing pretty good there. Let's click OK, and you got a new layer. Now, let's find the background we want it on. We're going to put it on this background. Well, you kind of already know. You can see I have the yellows pumped up here. The default, look at her, and you put her on this green background with a very large coffee cup. I don't think so. You're going to have to go in here and make it super yellow. You're going to have to blow it out and blow out the highlights, and just really, you got to kind of make it look the same, right? And hers is more orangey. We better put some pink in there, right? So hers is, look at her. She's kind of orangey, right? Let's get in there with that orange. All right, let's click open, and let's do a copy and paste. Copy. Stupid. Copy. And paste, and we'll put it behind her. Okay, and I made that background a little small, I think, so let's just make it larger, just for example purposes. And let's move her over so you don't see the coffee cup. It's not bad, but there's another problem here. Now you can see that there's a lens flare issue coming. There's a lens flare coming in here. She's kind of washed out, which she would be because of lens flare. But right beside her, this table isn't. Either you got to lower the contrast of the table, or you got to raise her contrast, or maybe even both. Let's try raising her contrast. Filter, camera raw, because this is another thing you have to watch out for. Let's raise her contrast, and maybe more whites, lower the blacks. Lowering the blacks, by the way, increases them. That's closer. But I think the table's still a little too contrasty. Let's go to camera raw and let's take the contrast out. Let's like lower the contrast. That's better. Maybe not all the way. And maybe we could make it a little blurry. So like negative clarity. Negative clarity kind of makes things soft. There, we're getting there now. We're getting there now. What would you do next? Come on. You know, you would go to the camera raw filter and you would find one of these profiles to unite them. Now, of course, in black and white, they are perfectly united. It's a done deal in black and white. That's cheating. Let's go to artistic and find one that looks like, you know, they're all together. That would have done it. Let's go to vintage. We haven't been there yet. That's more of the Instagram-y type of looks. See if we find one there that we like. I'm starting to see why I don't go down there very often. Let's go with this one. That actually does a pretty good job of unifying everything. And if it were me, and by the way, it is, I would go down to the effects panel and I would just lighten that little edge up just a tiny bit. maybe, I don't know, -11? Sure, let's do that. And watch, it's this little thing, but it takes the heat off that edge, and there you go. Okay, so that gives you an idea of that. Now, I did want to talk about another way. Oh, let's look at this. So you're going to run into some fringe problems, right? We know that's going to happen. It's a done deal. So let's look at some things we can do. Let's open up this photo and this photo. Let's open them both here. All right. Here's our image. Look at that hair. Ridiculously hard to select, or is it? Let's get a selection tool. Let's click on Select Subject. Couple seconds later, not bad. Actually, pretty good job. But let's go to Select and Mask and see, did it really? See, some of those hairs there kind of just turned brown. Like they don't really have the detail and stuff because I don't think they're fully selected. Let's make our brush a little larger. By the way, I'm changing brush sizes using the left and right bracket keys on my keyboard. The left bracket makes the brushes smaller. The right bracket makes it larger. The bracket keys are to the right of the letter P on a US keyboard. All right, so I would go over this little edge right here. Oops, that is the third tool. We already know the third tool is bad. Second tool, there we go. Make the brush bigger, and let's just get these edges. We want to get all of that hair in there. So let's see how it did. Yep, that did a little better. Let's do the same thing over here. Let's make sure we've gotten, yeah, there's some little areas that we're missing in there. Let's make sure that we get some of those. Oh yeah, look at it, was some of these, ooh, there was gray, you could see that. Now, unfortunately, it also selected part of her top there, right around, selected part of her top. So go to the third tool here, and if you just look away for just a moment while I'm doing this, please. Look away, I'll tell you when back. And it looks like it lost a little of her back over there. Okay, we're back. You can look now. Okay, so we have decontaminate on. Watch what decontaminate does. Look at that. There's without decontaminate. Watch with it. Yeah, big difference. Let's click OK. All right, now let's just duplicate the layer if we want. Look at that. Look at the difference. Look at the duplicating the layer, filling in those gaps. Look right back here where there was like the hair was kind of not getting it there. You duplicate the layer and it fills it in. Let's merge those two together. We're going to press Command E on Mac, Control E on Windows. It merges them together. Now, copy. Let's go over to our other image and let's hit paste. And it's not bad. You got a little bit of fringy stuff there. It's a little fringy. How do you get rid of that stuff? Well, there's a couple different ways. One is to go under the matting. And she came off a lighter background, right? What color was her background originally? Yes, it was a lighter background. So what you would do is go under the layer menu, under matting, all the way at the bottom, and choose remove white matte. And it kind of adds a little black area around the edges, and it often does a good job. Not always, but it's worth trying. Let's take a look. All right, it looks like it maybe did a little too much. It looks like it kind of went over the top. So what else can we try if it's too much? Well, sometimes even though you're not supposed to do it, I try remove black matte, see what it looks like. That's too fringy, look at that. You can really see the fringe on the hair. So the thing that we will try is to go under the layer menu, under the same place, and choose defringe. Got fringe? Choose defringe. Hit, I don't know, 3, probably it's a high resolution picture. Hit 3, and that will often get rid of the edge fringe. Let's look at another picture. Maybe I can find a better example for you. Let's open up, let's open up this image. Let's open up this background and this photo. Here we go. 2 photos. 1, 2. Open it. And it's on a white background. Let's click a selection tool, click select subject. Looks like I did a pretty good job. Duplicate the layer and copy and paste it onto our background. All right, I didn't do a bad job. I mean, that was like 1 click. All right, you want the super 1-click secret? This is for the laziest Photoshop artist you've ever seen. If that's you, we can get this down to nothing. Watch this. This is terrible. Don't tell anybody I showed you. It's the Terry White trick. So I got to give Terry's the one that showed me this trick. So start off by duplicating the layer, okay? And you can hide the background layer. So you're working on a copy. Ready? See the properties panel? Look down a little lower. Look. Remove background. It's one click. Done. What? I know, it's crazy. It's nuts. Okay, so now, now that you have that, here, let's make the mask permanent. Let's copy and paste it over to the other document. Yeah, over there. And how's the sizing? We'll size it. Do you notice? I see it. Do you see the edge fringe? Look on the jacket. Look, there's fringe. There's little white fringe and stuff. And her hair. Let's go choose defringe. Layer, matting, defringe, drop in 3 pixels. Gone. Did you see that? Look, there's the fringe. Fringe is gone. Look at the little chain hanging like right here, right? Defringe. It replaces that edge pixel that's white with a combination of whatever's in the background and whatever's in her. So it does like some really cool math, and it gets rid of fringe. The fringe on the jacket's gone. Yeah, the little fringe, you can see that white fringe right in the edges. It's gone. All right, so those are a couple. Now you know some things that you could do when you get the fringe. Now, we got to fix this. What will we do to finish it off? Needs a color. Go to unify it real quick. How long does it take to unify? No time. Let's go to artistic. Let's find something to unify her. Boom, unified right there. Remember, when you choose these artistic things, I don't know if I told you, I'm saying remember like I told you. I didn't tell you. I'm telling you now. You go to these artistic things, there's an amount slider. If you think it's too much, you're like, I like that color tone, but it's a bit too much, do this. Go right here to the slider and just pull it down. Dial in just the right amount. Yeah, that's better right there. Now, if it were me, and it is, by the way, filter, camera. You think I'm going to the vignette. I'm not going to do it. I'm going to do something else. I'm going to go to the radial filter. That's right, the radial filter. I'm going to darken the exposure. I'm going to draw a circle right here because I'm putting a spotlight on her, and I'm darkening everything else. I want to make it even darker and more mysterious, like she's lit by a single light from above. No, from that window over there. That window over there is lighting her. Let's make it bigger so it lights her face. And let's tilt it towards that window. And I'm going to turn off the little overlay so you can see it. Yeah, I just did that. Yes, I did. Let's click OK. So there's another one. Okay. Now, what about the shadows? We haven't really talked about that. And honestly, it's easier than you think it would be. This needs some stuff, right? You know that. This needs like the colors, and it looks like she's stuck there, but you know what to do. But there's a lot of repetition in this class. But that was the idea, for you to see it again and again and again, to where before I do it, you know what's coming. And that's why I had to throw the radial filter on you, because I knew that you already knew what was coming. Let's move on. Okay, remember these guys? These three? These were the guys, I call these the guys I had on my drive. There's no shadow right there, and it looks very stuck there. So how could you get a shadow on there really easily? Well, there actually is a drop shadow filter. Go under the FX menu, and there it is, drop shadow. It comes up, and you can decide, how blurry you want it. The size is the amount of blur. The distance is how far it is away from the subject, and the opacity is how dark it is. So we're just going to make it really big and just kind of soft and everything. Okay? So let's click OK, and you've got this shadow. Well, of course, it looks fakey as anything. Why would he be casting a shadow onto the background? He would cast a shadow onto the two gentlemen on either side of him. Would he cast a shadow onto the background? Probably, I'm thinking not. Here's what you do. Go under the layer menu. Go to layer style and choose create layer. So right now, the way this is set up, when you choose that drop shadow, anything you put on his layer gets a drop shadow. If I were to go get a brush, make it a hard brush, and I was to grab a color, and I paint. Look, it's got a drop shadow. That's supposed to be red. It's got a drop shadow. Anything on that layer has a drop shadow. We're going to remove the shadow from that layer. Go into the layer menu, to layer style, choose create layer, and now look, it's its own thing. It's its own thing. It's just a shadow. It's just a shadow. I can edit it, right? Yeah. Why don't you go grab an eraser, get a nice big one, get rid of what's on his shoulder, what's around his head, what's all around his head, over here, all the way to that guy's shoulder. All right? And then, now the shadow is where it belongs, on them. These are easy things to do to be able to add a shadow and add some dimension. It's not perfect, but you get the idea. Because the light sources are coming from all different places. This is not a great composite, but it is the people that were on my drive already. These are the only 3 guys I had with this kind of body ratio. Okay, let's move on. This one's real fast. How to add a texture so it's a composite of a texture. Here's our photo. Woman with attitude, looking up with sunglasses. Then we're also going to open up a texture. This is so easy. You're going to be like, what? We're going to open the background. Copy and paste it. We're going to put it on top. Okay, doesn't look very good, right? I mean, it's kind of not awesome. So how do you blend this background to where you, because that's a more interesting background than the solid gray seamless paper I shot her on. So let's do this. We're going to change the blend mode to overlay. When you switch it to overlay, boom, look, it completely covers the background and you can decide how much you want it and all. But unfortunately, it does one other thing. It completely covers her as well. As you can see, now she's got all this grungy texture over her. It's not awesome. So here's how we're going to fix this super fast. We're going to do this. We're going to hide the background layer. We're going to go to her. We're going to get a selection tool. We're going to click select subject. We're 1 click away from being done. Ready? We're going to make the background layer visible. Hold the Option key on Mac or the Alt key on Windows. Watch her. Watch. Option. Click. And she comes to front. Now the background's behind her. You can lower the opacity. Do whatever you want. And probably even add, just click on that layer. Add a little blur back there so it looks like it's 8 feet behind her. Just maybe 2 pixels. I don't know. A little bit of blur. And then the standard things to unify and all. Okay, all right. We are literally out of time, but I'm going to do one more thing because I want to show you that these things aren't just for portraits. Let's go and grab a shot here, for example. Let's grab, where is it? Here. Hiking trail. Let's grab this dude. Oh, I think it's a girl. Let's not grab a dude, let's grab this girl. Let's open up. All right, now we need to get it off the background. How quick is it? Like 2 seconds. Actually, let's just be really lame. Duplicate the layer, click remove background. Oh, it's done. All right, I don't need that mask really. So now let's copy and paste it over into our thing. And they're like right there. No, you wouldn't put them there. And you also probably wouldn't have them walking out of the frame. Flip them the other way. There we go. Colors don't match at all. Filter, camera raw. You know you got to make it really orangey and yellow. So way over towards yellow, way over, add some orange. Click OK. You're very close. But you notice here, this is a recurring theme. He is too contrasty compared to the environment. So let's go to the camera raw filter and let's lower his contrast a lot. Make him kind of look washed out. I would say almost maybe a little blur, because I'm looking at the image looks very soft indeed. Maybe a 2 pixel, 2 pixels too much. 1.5, and that's getting close. And then let's do something to unify the two of them. Go grab a color, add some unity. You know how I feel about unity, it's very important. Grab one of these where they all look the same. There you go. And you're in the ballpark. Thank you guys for watching with me today. I appreciate it very much. I hope that got you into compositing. And I know that right now you're thinking, yeah, I can do that. That's really easier than I thought it was going to be. And if that's what you're thinking, my job here is done.
Can you replay it so we can try and understand it?
Sorry?
Can you replay it again? So
Well, the good news is it's recorded. So once it's up online
Yeah.
tomorrow, you can watch it as many times as you want.
But really, he's probably done 6 or 7 hours of training there. And what you need to do is to take just the first part, unless you've already done all this before, and practice the first few minutes
Mhm.
until you're familiar with it, and then move on a little bit with the video another day and come back, see if you remember how to do the first part, and then try and start on the second part. Otherwise, it'll never stick with you.
No.
Mm,
Yeah, you're
okay,
dead right.
thanks.
That's what used to happen with Malcolm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
He's a faster version of Malcolm, isn't he?
yeah.
I think it was fairly Photoshop, sort of concentric, wasn't it? It was a,
Yes, it was.
you know Affinity better than me, Keith. You've got a lot of missing things there.
Yeah, I think you could do most of what he's shown. Affinity doesn't have select subject in quite in that way, a sort of automatic selection of the subject. But I mean, it seemed to me that the selections work best when you already had a lovely plain background. And when they didn't, then he had to fiddle a bit, and it's the same in Affinity. So I'm not sure that select subject is so essential. Other things, well, quite a lot of other things exist, but those presets don't. So he's done a sort of artistic unifying color scheme. You can get lookup tables, so-called LUTs, that will plug into Affinity. You can buy those type of things, but you don't get the same range of presets as you do in Photoshop. So, but there's nothing to stop you making your own color overlay to make a uniform color. Other things, Affinity does have an undo brush. I don't know whether it works while you're halfway through a selection. I'm somehow doubt it would do that. But there are workarounds. You know, all the things that are being shown pretty much can be done. I can't say I've done them, but I'm aware of them.
Yeah. Yeah. I wasn't sure because you obviously know Affinity quite very well. And obviously
Yeah,
a lot of what you've shown in Photoshop is sort of built in, isn't it?
Yeah, Ray might comment on the defringing. Now, I happen to know, because I stumbled across it, that you do get this annoying fringing, and there didn't seem to be a defringing button that I could find. But actually, if you make your selection to a new layer or a new layer with a mask, it does a defringe automatically at that stage. So it does tidy it up a bit. But that's clearly a point of difference. There's a separate discrete button on Photoshop for doing it. In Affinity, it's not so obvious where it is.
Mm.
Well, that's the problem with Photoshop, of course. There's so many different combinations of menu. Most of us don't know where many of the little buttons are, and you just got to watch this sort of thing and try and remember it.
Yeah. And I think
I agree what Colin's saying, guys, because I've done quite a bit of training on compositing. I've taken a few courses and things like that, and they're really useful. But I think ultimately, if you can get the cutting out of things and the selections, and getting the detail right on that, and also having a bit of a plan, because you could just spend all day sort of cutting and pasting like you would cutting out of a magazine. I think it's good if you have a bit of an idea. A lot of some of the really good training I did was you have a plan, sketch it out on a bit of paper, whatever, or you find you've got a nice landscape picture and you decide, look, I want to put something in it. Then you can go out and find that picture, to put into it. It's good fun because it opens up, I think, other possibilities. Whether you can't get out, you've got to use your imagination, though, haven't you? You've got to think about things a bit differently.
Yeah.
But definitely the lighting, putting shadows on there. Once it doesn't take too long, really. And matching them up, camera angle, choosing things. And if you want to just grab, yeah, you can just find stock images, can't you? You know, Affinity, you can just drag them in if you want to play and just learn, and then use, of course, your own photos later.
Yeah.
But yeah, it wasn't much that Affinity doesn't do on there. Quite like you can bring it back. Is it that Camera Raw module he kept reopening up? That was quite clever.
Yeah, but in Affinity, what you would add an adjustment layer
Yeah, yeah.
to the
With
thing,
the
and that also
workaround. Yeah,
would be destructive, but it would get to the same end point, really.
yeah. But yeah, it's good
I
fun.
I have seen the odd compositing video where there's a business of getting the contrast right, isn't there? The contrast between the dropped in and the background.
Yeah.
And some people have done it a bit more formally. They add a black and white layer so as to remove the colors, because it gets a bit confusing then. And then it's easier to match the contrast with the black and white layer. And then you throw the black and white layer away after you've done it. He was doing it much by eye, wasn't he?
Yes, he was. Yeah, there is another way of doing it. We used to do it another way by doing filling a layer with like 50% grey, I think, and then sort of putting that on top of it,
Right,
and then
yeah.
blending it. So it's the usual with Photoshop. There are so many ways to do the same thing, and everybody's got their own way, but hopefully it wasn't too complicated for everybody.
The other thing that's hard about compositing, it didn't work in the examples that he showed, is getting the perspective right.
Yeah.
So if you want to
Yeah.
drop a car into a picture and you get that perspective wrong, it will stick out like a sore thumb. You have this problem of, you need to understand that perspective has these vanishing lines, and your car has to fit so that those vanishing lines match. And there's also viewpoint. So was your eye above the thing that you were taking, or was your eye below it? If you get those wrong, it can look odd. So
Yeah.
it's quite a tricky thing depending on what you're doing. I think he's doing some of the easier stuff in dropping a person into a background.
Yes. Yeah. Well, it was only an introduction, so I think it was more a basic, although it did seem quite complicated.
Oh,
But
yeah.
that's
He's covered
probably-
a lot of ground.
Sorry.
He's covered a lot of ground.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
It was really
Very
useful.
Yeah. And it's
I
like
really-
Colin said, you need to work your way through the video really, a bit at a time, until you're happy that what you're doing and you understand why you're doing it. I think as much as anything.
Yeah, it was. I mean, as somebody who's never composited, find that word a bit stupid, really. But never composed. Well, I don't do it because I don't see the point of it really, or it doesn't appeal to me. But I was trying hard there to follow what he was doing, but he kept saying, "Oh, deselect this, do this, do that," and I couldn't see, where he was clicking. It was just, so much gibber to me, really.
I don't suppose you were around when Malcolm was there, but what Malcolm did was he changed the software to give himself a large cursor, just so that when he was flashing around the screen,
Yeah.
demonstrating to people, you could actually see where the
Yeah,
cursor
that's
was and where it was
Better for
going.
training, isn't it?
Yeah, he did.
I didn't see his cursor at all, I don't think.
No.
You're supposed to watch the screen.
Yeah, I was. I mean, I was underneath the blanket while I was doing it, but
Yeah, Malcolm used to he used to put a big yellow mouse pointer on the club laptop, and I used to do my head every time I turned the blinking thing on because I had to take it off.
Put one on my screen and I've still got it.
Yeah, have you still got it? Yeah.
Great
But
big thing.
you could definitely see where it was. But it might be an idea really, is maybe I'll get a few things together and have a go at doing it myself, and we'll have a session where we try and go through it all together a bit slower, and then if people have got don't quite understand something, we can slow it down and show again.
Yeah, anyone who hasn't even attempted to do this sort of thing, that's a real putting off type video. It just covers too much ground in too short a time.
Yeah.
It really does help if we can assist people to go through the process. And some of the things he talks about, like the light coming from different directions.
Yeah.
And help them with what they're trying to do. So if anyone starts it and they want to bring their laptop in or whatever during some of the club evenings, then we can see what can be done to assist.
Yeah, we could have a go at that in a few weeks' time. We've got a couple of things on the next 2 weeks, but 2 or 3 weeks. But after that, we could have a go an evening. I don't know how many people got laptops with Photoshop on, but you can always do it on the my laptop or the club laptop. So just a thought, if anybody wants to have a go at it, because it is if you haven't done it before, it's little steps really, I think.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't got many pictures. Well, I haven't got any pictures against a pale grey background or a a plain background. Most of my pictures are part of the real world.
Yes, of course. Yeah.
But when you look at all the studio sessions we've had, unless we've deliberately blown the background up with flash to turn it white, then it's very easy to get that grey look in the background and work from there.
It is very orientated to one sort of compositing, isn't it? Where you've got a model and you've got an ideal background and ideal lighting.
Yeah.
Whereas quite a bit of compositing I might be interested in doing. As Roy says, the background, it wouldn't be so easy to remove, but
what we can do, if we do it for club night, we can get the screen out and actually use ourselves as models against a blank background.
We might be able to hire a model because we've got a bit of money in the club, and now Barry's not in charge of it. We can actually get on and spend some of it. Because let's be fair, I'd rather pay it 60 quid for a couple of hours of a model that could come in and we could take some different photos. And it would be something a bit different. And then we could also, at the same time, have a bit of practice with the lighting and the studio setup. So sort of cover 2 birds with 1 stone then, couldn't we?
Yeah, I think that would be good. I mean, to Colin's point, I think I've only been at one session where we were photographing a model. That was the band, the pub band.
Yeah.
And the little girl, but I didn't take any pictures of the little girl. She was the young lady,
Yeah. I'm sure
you can always make your own backgrounds by getting a photograph, turn it into black and white, and then goes and blur it from there.
Yeah.
To what you need, and then put the colour back in. Which is what he's done. It's basically used a grey screen.
Mm.
I'm happy to run a little, just do a little session. I'll use Affinity Beat, but I'm happy to just show, how to cut things out of, non-white backgrounds, how to add a shadow, things like that. That's useful.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Because once it's actually quite straightforward. And you're really just cutting and pasting them then.
Okay, that'd be good. We'll have that'll do another night, won't it? We can go through a few things like that. Because I don't know how many have got Photoshop and how many have got Affinity, but pretty much everybody's got one or the other, haven't they?
Yeah, I should imagine so. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. What did you think, Gary? Did it make sense to you?
Gary, wake up.
Someone was snoring. Who was snoring?
Well, I think it was Gary, yeah.
If I was to do it, I'd probably want to watch the video again and do it.
Oh, yeah.
And he didn't show you the crop tool, did he?
He didn't, no.
He pre-cropped his images.
Yeah, he's proven that, Scott Kelby has proven that you can use Photoshop in a session and not have to use the crop tool.
Yeah.
So it's alien to Gary. He's never actually done that.
Scott Kelby has long been Photoshop's independent writer.
Yeah.
So he gets access to all the developers in Photoshop and can go and talk to them about what they're developing. And yet he comes out as an independent, but he only ever writes about Photoshop.
Yeah.
He used to be with Matt Klaskowski, which is now Matt's got his own channel.
Oh, right.
They both used to work for Photoshop.
Yeah.
Is that a free video, Pete, or do you have to pay for it?
No, I bought that as part of a set of different videos and tuition. So I've got some more to show later in the year. You'll be pleased to know. Save you buying them, wouldn't it?
That
Yeah.
that cheap f-stoppers deal or something.
Yes, it was.
F-stoppers.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
One of them. One of these where they, Black Friday deals where you could buy all these different videos and bits of
Yeah,
software for a fraction of the normal price. What they
Yeah,
basically-
$15,000.
Yeah,
$15,000 worth of software for 20 or something.
yeah.
Like
So
that.
yeah, I think it was something like $2,000 worth of tuition and videos for $80. And what they were basically saying was, we have plucked a figure out of the sky, and that's our starting point, and we're now going to sell it for what actually it's worth. So, but it was quite good, and there's some very good videos in there and tuition, which was the reason I got it, really.
You can get Scott Kelby stuff on YouTube.
Yeah, you can.
I would have thought so. Yeah, I haven't looked. He's got to be on there, hasn't he?
Yeah.
Well, some of it, but they do they have their own website, the Kelby one or the something, I can't remember what it's called.
Yeah, this one's Kelby one. So it
Kelby one, and yeah.
Like that video, I think if you wanted the video I've got, you'd have to pay for it. It's not one of his free ones, but I'm sure he does something similar.
Yeah, I just can't decide if it's annoying or not.
Yeah, no. Quite.
Well, he's a yank, isn't he?
It's borderline.
Yeah, it is. Well, after an
And he
hour,
always-
it gets a bit too much, I think.
It's the typical
He has this weird thing where he scrunches up his nose a lot. It's just,
Presumably,
if you're on compositing for too long, is it? You start scrunching up.
Probably.
Presumably, Pete, those National Geographic people use compositing all the time, do they?
Probably not.
Well, not that they'd admit to, anyway.
No.
Were the pictures last week? Did we get any good ones in the tabletop stuff?
Well, yeah, Gary took most of them for Patty's jewellery. I think they were all right. She was very happy with them, Gary, wasn't she?
Well, yeah, so the email said, yeah.
Did she take them on her camera, or did you give her your card?
I gave her my card.
Right, okay. That was very kind of you.
You got any to share, have you, Gary, or send them out?
No, I didn't have a copy of them. They all went. Patty took them all home.
I'll get her to let us have some, Ray, so we can show them.
Yeah, just interesting.
She's away this week.
Can I just say a bit about that close-up lens that I lent Gary?
Oh yeah, you can. Yeah.
Well, basically, I wrote some figures down here because I've got extension tubes and the close-up lens.
Yeah.
And one of the disadvantages of the close-up lens is that you've got to buy a really good quality one, otherwise, you lose a bit on image quality.
Yeah.
Which you don't with extension tubes, obviously. Extension tubes don't put any optics in the way, so they just magnify. But I've got some figures here for my 18-135 lens, zoom lens, and I've put extension tubes on it and the close-up lens. And an interesting thing is that with, say, for example, 11mm extension tube, you get image ratios of between 1 to 1.5, 1 to 2, 1 to 12. But the thing that varies a lot is the focusing distance. So as you zoom the camera lens in and out, the actual focusing distance varies a lot with an extension tube. So that means you're forever moving the camera relative to the subject, yeah?
Yep.
And that's all right if you're doing tabletop stuff. I mean, it's a bit of a bind, but you can do it. But if you look at the close-up lens, the close-up lens has got a fixed, well, it's hard to tell you really, but that lens that I've got is 2 diopters, right? And a diopter is reciprocal of focal length in meters. So it's 1/2, which gives you 50 centimeters. So basically, when the camera is focused on infinity, it will always focus at 50 centimeters, independent of what the zoom range of the lens is. Now that's quite useful, because if you're using such a lens out in the field to take, say, insects, you get used to a certain distance at which you've got to hold the camera to get the insect. And with the close-up lens, that doesn't vary by very much. So it's very easy to stalk an insect and get it in the right spot, no matter what you're zooming, if you see what I mean.
Yeah.
So that, I think, is not something that comes out normally, but it's useful to know. So with that lens that I had there, typically with the camera set on infinity, it would focus at 50 centimeters, and that's what Gary was showing, wasn't it? Because he was about half a meter away from the ring with it on the end of his lens, and that's what did it.
It was quite easy.
Yeah, yeah. So I would recommend having one of those, and Canon make some good quality ones. They make a thing called a Canon 250D and a Canon 500D, and that's not to be confused with EOS 50D, EOS 250 and EOS 500D. They're just Canon 250D and Canon 500D, and they're available in different filter sizes, and they are multi-element lenses. So, you know, they're worth having. I used to have those for my Canon lens, but sold them when I got rid of the lens. So the one I've got now is a different make.
That's interesting. I didn't know they did those.
The close-up lenses work best on well, you get the most magnification on long focal lengths, and extension tubes you get the most magnification on short focal lengths, but it does that by reducing the minimum focal distance. And if you put one on a wide angle lens, the sort of minimum focal distance ends up being inside the lens. You can't actually focus at all.
Yeah.
I see you change your photo, Terry.
Yeah, it's my composting. It's my composting photo.
Yeah, that's my sort of composting as well.
Bob, when he logged on tonight, was very confused because he had all his gardening books out and everything. He thought we was composting.
That's what happened to most of my images anyway. They end up in the compost.
Oh dear. Right. Okay. So, anybody else got any thoughts on tonight?
Is Keith still with us?
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, Keith, the Which magazine came today, and there was a little article on the problems of editing digital photographs without getting Photoshop. And they mentioned GIMP, but they didn't mention Affinity at all.
Oh.
And that's the real problem was the cost of Photoshop at £10 a month. It built up over time. But they didn't mention Affinity, and I thought that was a bit of a shortcoming from an organisation that considers itself very knowledgeable in advising people.
Yeah, you should have added it in, because GIMP's free, isn't it?
Sorry, I missed that.
Free ones, Colin.
Sorry?
GIMP is free, so maybe.
Yeah, I know. But it's extreme. It's complex. GIMP. It's not got a good user interface on it.
No. I've got it on the work laptop. I find it very hard to use, but that's why just for the cost of Affinity, it's not worth.
No, you're right.
Yeah, I mean, Affinity is just good value, isn't it? Because as far as I can see, it is just like a copy of Photoshop, really.
But there was some very clever, you know, remove backgrounds and, you know, select subject quickly. You can work very quickly on some of those Photoshop tools, can't you? Very snazzy, but it's whether you want to pay out for it.
Yeah.
I mean, Photoshop is, I suppose, the most comprehensive one, but it just irks me that if you stop paying for it, you can't use it anymore. It's not like you can keep what you paid for once. You just
good reason for that.
Well, yeah. You know, they said bend over, and you did.
Well, yeah, but I see what you're saying, Terry. I mean, the thing is, you paid for it up to now. Really, if you were to stop your subscription, you ought to be able to use it up to where it was, because you already technically paid for it, haven't you?
Yeah.
The trouble was that Photoshop was never designed initially to be used by amateurs. It was a professional piece of software. And when it became popular, of course, you still had the professional costings of, it was about £600 a release, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And they had to do something about it because they were starting to lose out with things like GIMP coming along and the other freeware type of developments that were going on by universities, and anyone could pick it up and use it and knock it into a product. And they just changed this $10 or £10 a month charge. But I think Affinity sidestepped all that, and it looks like a better deal.
Oh,
Only
well,
reason I
yeah,
don't use
well,
Affinity is it's like moving the clutch onto the right foot and the accelerator onto the left foot.
It's more like you changing foot on brakes, put the brake on the accelerate pedal.
yeah, I mean, they did it because they could, basically. I think because it was the most popular package and
Monopoly
lots
on
of
it,
people are locked into it, they could get away with it. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean,
and most people are very tied into Lightroom, aren't they? And they get Photoshop thrown in, so they see it as if they're paying for Lightroom. And
yeah, but they can't use the Lightroom or the catalogs or any of the stuff if they don't keep on paying 10 quid a month, can they? You know, that's a problem. I mean, if you kind of that's the bit that I can't really cope with.
Yeah. Yeah, at least before, when you bought the CD, you've still got that, and you've got that version.
You've got to remember, it's not only photographers that use Photoshop.
No, it's
no. Lots of people use it, don't they?
Graphic designers and all sorts of.
Yeah, all these models on the
You're
papers.
not really buying it, are you? You're only renting it.
Yeah. Okie doke. Right, that's about it for tonight. Next Tuesday is the league match, so that will be Zoom only again, because it's easier for everybody, and we can get the other clubs logged in. I mean, we could hold it in the hall as well, but it's a bit complicated with the league match. It's easier to do it from home, and the judge is happier that we're doing it remotely. She's not over keen on coming to the hall, so we'll do that. It's the same time, but obviously we'll probably have other clubs joining us that are in our league, and it'll be the normal time. Sorry,
which judge is it?
It's Maria again.
Oh, the same lady, yeah.
Yeah. See if we're going to keep getting her back until she gives us a decent score.
Yeah.
That's the wrong approach, Peter.
Oh, is it?
You keep trying different ones and keep trying different ones till you get a good score, I think.
Ah, right. Okay. Well, no, she's got to give us a good score sooner or later. I think I might have to tell her which ones are ours this time. I know it's against league rules. No, we'll see. We'll see.
I think she's probably worked out.
Yeah.
Which ones are ours.
Yeah, I think she possibly has. It'll be interesting because we got 2 more matches before us on Tuesday. There's one on Thursday night, and I'll send a link out if anybody wants to join in and watch it. And I'm just waiting for the details of Monday night is Oakley Camera Club, so we should get the link for that in the next day or so, and I'll send that out as well. So if anybody wants to go along and watch, feel free. I should probably do the Monday one, but I shan't be there for the Thursday one because we got the other club Thursday nights. Okay, anybody else got anything they want to say, brought up, mentioned?
Good night.
Good night. Okay.
Yeah, thanks, Peter.
Yeah, it's great.
I'll see you all later on.
Cheers,
Thanks a lot.
Thanks, everyone. Take
See
care.
ya.
Bye.
Cheers.
Good
Bye.
night.
At all.
Good night, John
Good
Paul.
night.
Bye, Jim Bob.
Good night.